Look, honey, the baby we always wanted, I said with a hopeful smile. But he remained impassive and in a cold voice asked to do a DNA test. Before we get into it, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any future stories. Enjoy. My name is Sophia. I am a 30-year-old architect dedicated to my work in one of the most renowned studios in the city. 3 years ago, I married Tommaso, a man who I believed loved me unconditionally. At the beginning, our marriage was filled with joy and promises of a bright future. However, as time went by, the desire to have a child began to affect our relationship. After 2 years of marriage, Tommaso and I decided to have a child. But what was supposed to be a time of happiness soon turned into an ordeal. Each failed attempt added tension between us. The frustration accumulated month after month, with no results. We consulted several doctors and specialists, but no one could give us a concrete answer. The treatments were expensive and stressful, and each negative result broke a piece of my heart. "Do you want to try tonight?" I often asked Tommaso, but he, increasingly tired, put it off. Our intimacy diminished, and our frustration grew. My husband became more distant, his absences more frequent, and his excuses more vague. I often found myself alone at dinner, with my mind full of doubts and unanswered questions. I began to fear that there was another woman in Tommaso's life and decided to talk to my sister about it. Eleanor, a mother of 3, was always available and willing to listen. During a visit to her home, she said to me, "I understand how difficult this is. Why don't you try something different to stimulate him?" Even my brother Leonardo, known for his extravagant ideas, intervened. "Little sister, why don't you seduce him in a creative way?" When I got home, I was determined to try something new. That night, I put on my most provocative lingerie and tried to seduce him. It worked, but it was the last time we shared a moment of intimacy. Tommaso began coming home later and later, often without explanation. Then finally, after months of hopes and disappointments, I discovered with immense joy that I was pregnant. Yet I felt more and more alone and confused. I hoped that a pregnancy would solve our problems, but it didn't. He almost didn't care about anything. The support of my family became more and more important. Eleanor, my sister, came to visit me often, bringing me homemade food and words of comfort. "You don't have to go through this alone." Leonardo also tried to make me smile with his jokes, but a sense of despair grew inside me. One evening, my husband accused me of infidelity. "Have you met anyone recently?" he asked, full of suspicion. "What? Who would I meet in this condition?" I replied, shocked. The tension grew, and the day of the birth approached. When the time finally came, Tommaso was at work. My parents drove me to the hospital. After 4 hours of labor, our son was born, a beautiful baby boy, Lorenzo. The joy of holding him in my arms was indescribable, but when my husband arrived, he showed no emotion. "Look at the baby we've always wanted," I said. He remained impassive. "Say something," I begged, but he didn't answer. Then, in a cold, distant voice, he asked the doctor to do a DNA test. The request surprised everyone, but he didn't believe in me. "We had so much trouble conceiving. It must be someone else's," he said. The doctor, an old family friend, tried to calm the situation by suggesting the test. The accusation was too serious to ignore. I began to doubt everything, even myself. Maybe Thomas was right, but how could that be possible? I was trapped in a vortex of confusion and pain. The tension between us became unbearable, and our home, once a safe haven, turned into a place of conflict and suspicion. A week later, I went back to the hospital for the results. Tommaso was already there with an eerie smile. If you like this story, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. The doctor announced in a solemn voice, "There is no parental bond between Thomas and the child." Those words hit me like a bolt of lightning, leaving me breathless. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. For a moment, the world seemed to stop, and I found myself lost in a vortex of thoughts and doubts. How was it possible? Who could be the father of my child? I began to replay every single moment, every detail, desperately searching for an answer that I couldn't find. My mind was a riot of conflicting emotions: fear, anger, confusion. Eleanor and Leonardo, worried about me, decided to intervene. Eleanor, always caring and attentive, comforted me, while my brother, with his natural inclination for investigation, got to work. Leonardo began to gather information and clues. His research led to the discovery of suspicious bank movements and frequent telephone contacts between Tommaso and the doctor. His determination led him to discover compromising documents that proved the illicit payment. The truth, so absurd and devastating, was that Tommaso had paid the doctor to falsify the results. I felt betrayed and confused. Furthermore, Leonardo found testimonies from Tommaso's colleagues who confirmed his relationship with Emma, a co-worker. The evidence was overwhelming. Payment receipts, compromising messages, and eyewitness accounts that left no room for doubt. With each new discovery, the picture became clearer. Tommaso had orchestrated a devious plan to get rid of me and our baby, all thanks to his affair with Emma and the bribery of the doctor. This revelation overwhelmed me, but at the same time it gave me the strength to fight for the truth and for my son's future. He planned to use the child support money to pay the doctor. He was a despicable man. I decided to confront him once and for all. We arranged a meeting with the lawyers. "I demand a divorce and alimony," Tommaso said arrogantly, but we had all the evidence against him. Happy to have done justice, I obtained a divorce and maintenance for Lorenzo. Over time, I found the strength to rebuild my life. I focused on work and Lorenzo, trying to give him all the love and attention he deserved. Every day with him was a new adventure, and his smile gave me the strength to keep going. Even though my husband continued to try to complicate my life, my lawyer was determined to protect my rights and Lorenzo's. During the first few months after the divorce, I received several threatening calls. He was trying to get me to give in on financial and custody issues. Every time I answered, his voice was filled with anger and frustration. "You won't get rid of me that easily," he said, but each time I found the strength to answer calmly and firmly. Thanks also to the continuous support of my brothers. Leonardo, with his investigative spirit, never stopped looking for new evidence against him. He discovered that he had hidden part of his assets in offshore accounts, hoping to avoid having to pay child support. This discovery proved crucial in our legal case. "You can't hide forever," I thought, as the lawyer added this new evidence to our case. Lorenzo was growing strong and healthy, and each of his progress was a small victory for me. One day, while walking in the park, we met an old friend, Marco, whom I hadn't seen for years. "Sophia, it's been a long time," Marco exclaimed. He was a schoolmate, a person I trusted a lot. I told him briefly about my situation, and he immediately offered to help. "You know, I work as a legal consultant. If you need anything, just call me." His offer was a breath of fresh air. Marco became a constant presence in my life, helping me navigate legal issues and offering emotional support. "You are not alone in this, Sophia," he often reminded me, and those words had extraordinary power. Meanwhile, Tommaso's situation was getting worse. He was losing control of his life more and more, and eventually even Emma abandoned him. A part of me felt sorry for him, but I remembered all the pain he had caused me, and I focused on Lorenzo's and my future. My life was starting to rebuild. I found a new job in a renowned architectural firm where I could put all my skills to good use. One night, while we were cooking dinner, Elena looked at me and said, "Sophia, you are the strongest person I know. Lorenzo is lucky to have a mother like you." Those words touched me deeply. I looked at my son, my little miracle, and I knew that every sacrifice, every tear had been worth it. And you, have you ever had to face an extremely complex situation? How did you overcome it?